Have you ever noticed that your life somehow always seems to begin somewhere in the future? When you were in school, you thought that life would start after graduating. After that, it would start after university, but then it was after getting your first job. Or no, it was when you decided it would start after moving, or even better, it would start after buying a house. But in the end, life never actually begins. I think that's because we have accidentally turned the present into a waiting room. The dangerous phrase. Why do we believe that external events will change our internal feelings? Think about it. So much of what we consider life is not even about life itself. It's about status, money, and achieving artificial goals. Those things are, of course, important, but sometimes it can become all you are. I remember when I was becoming a design engineer. I was moderately interested in the job and what it had to offer, but I always thought to myself, eventually things will get better. That wasn't really specific, but overall I was sure that things will turn out fine if enough time passed. So, finally, I was a design engineer and worked in that field a few years. Nothing changed. I still was only just enough interested in the job so as not to quit, and it still didn't feel remotely close to how I imagined my life. The whole time while I was working on achieving this goal of becoming a design engineer, I was thinking unconsciously in the back of my mind, once I become a design engineer, things will be different. What were these things? Well, I'm not sure, to be honest. I guess I could simplify it by calling it happiness. Once I achieve this, I will be happy. I would argue that everyone watching this video has had that happen to them. And honestly, it doesn't even seem like such a bad thing because it sounds oddly optimistic. I only have to achieve this thing and then good things will happen to me. It makes it sound like you can achieve your internal goal by accomplishing an external thing. But that's just not how the human brain works. The thinking about this dangerous phrase happens in the back of your mind. Maybe you're not even aware that it's happening, but if you think back now, I'm sure there are a few situations where you now realize that you were thinking into the future, expecting things to change. This leads right into the next point. The moving finish line. Okay, you have accepted that you're using this dangerous phrase. Once I become, this will happen, you know? But how does it actually look like? Let's say you're in college now. Things are great, but you have to study a lot and maybe you're seeing your friends less and less and maybe going to college wasn't even the right decision, but you push through it to make your parents happy, to make yourself happy, and most importantly, to just get it over with. Or not, maybe you love college, I don't know. Either way, throughout those years you focus on one thing and one thing only, graduation. If you work hard enough, that moment will come and then your college life is over forever. But that's a good thing, because you tell yourself that once you graduate, things will change. You will start to live your life again, because after graduating, you'll have a job and won't have to study anymore. Therefore, you got more time to spend with your friends and family. Everything will turn out fine after graduation. And then that day finally arrives. You did it, college is over. So now you're searching for a job. That in itself is a difficult process, but we'll not cover that now. Eventually you have a solid job that you're happy with, but somehow you still can't find the time you promised yourself you'll have. You still feel like this isn't it yet. You still haven't arrived where you wanted to be. But hey, once you get your first promotion, things will change, right? You have more money and therefore can create more free time for yourself and finally spend some time with friends and family and actually start to live your life. Alright then, let's push through those first few years of the job to get to that promotion. Life is a mess and not that enjoyable right now, but hey, that's okay, because eventually you'll arrive at that promotion and things will get better. Well, here it is, your promotion. Did things change? No. As soon as you start a family, that's when everything changes. Or no, things will change with retirement. Yeah, by that time you never really started to live your life. That's because the goal, your finish line, keeps on moving. You always look forward and chase a new thing that will hopefully change what's bothering you inside, but those external goals won't change the difficulties you face mentally. The myth of arriving. Adaptation. The human brain is a master of doing so. Right now, it does seem like every goal we set ourselves to is pointless. It doesn't change anything either way, right? Well, not quite. Before we achieve a certain goal, it feels huge. Let's take the driver's license for example. When I was at the legal age to start driving a car and completing my driver's license, I didn't care. I thought to myself that I'll do it in a few years and that I don't need to do it right now. And as you can guess, I regretted that decision later on. Even though I started my driver's license only 2 years after the legal age, I was still behind everyone else my age. I felt like I messed up and that I had to catch up now. So I did. I pursued this goal every day, going on a drive with my instructor whenever I could, just so the day I would hold my driver's license comes closer. I pictured myself alone in the car, driving, being able to go wherever I wanted and whenever. There was freedom, joy, and just pure excitement. Eventually, I did it and had my driver's license. I was over the moon with excitement. It was great and I went for drives whenever I could, but that changed. I still love driving. It's just something I really enjoy doing. But the joy of reaching that goal I had set for myself vanished. Sure, I'm glad I finally did my driver's license, but it's not like I feel fulfilled in life now. It's not as big anymore as it was. It's just a small pebble on the road and not this huge boulder anymore like it was before. I guess what I'm trying to say is that even though I reached the goal, that wasn't the end. I didn't actually arrive, but instead my brain just created new goals and aspirations. It feels like there's this huge checklist and the next thing is always so important and life-changing, but then you check it off the list and it's gone. You take the positives that come with achieving that goal and move on. Now the reason for this, I think, is this. The human brain needs to adapt to stay sane, even for positive things. Once something has become the standard, in this case being able to drive a car, we take it for granted. And therefore it doesn't evoke joy anymore. The brain adapted to the fact that I can drive a car whenever I need to. And that happens with everything in life. So I think it's so important to be more aware of reaching a goal. Because if your brain isn't doing it on its own, maybe your mind needs to put in the extra work to acknowledge that you finally achieved the goal you've been dreaming of. That way, maybe things can change for yourself. The goal didn't become less valuable, it became normal. Borrowing happiness from the future. Okay, so this is an interesting point. Happiness is great, right? You feel good, everything just works and life suddenly makes sense. It feels like you'll never get rid of this pure, incredible feeling, but then it goes away. Everything crumbles and you're back on the baseline. For some people, this baseline is an overall satisfaction. For others, it's straight up depression. To whichever side you belong, I think we can all agree that happiness is great in every aspect. But things get weird when we start thinking about happiness as something that can be treated like an investment. Or rather, quite the opposite. With an investment, we do something now that takes time or is tedious, but will have benefits for ourselves in the future. But what if you could take those benefits from the future now and use them? I'd call this the reverse investment. And that's essentially what we do when we borrow happiness from the future. You may be thinking, I don't do that, what is wrong with you? But I'm pretty sure you do. Let me explain. When you imagine yourself getting a promotion or finally starting a family, you ever realize that just thinking about this feels warm and comforting? You're aware that you haven't achieved that goal yet, but still, somehow you're harvesting some part of that future happiness and use it up right in the moment. It's not like when you'll finally reach that goal that some happiness is missing because you already spent it, but rather the happiness feels kind of normal, like you already adapted to it, like you already experienced this in some lesser form. And that's because you unconsciously borrow happiness from the future and that way diminish the joy you'll have when you actually make it. Now, I do have to admit that this is kind of a far stretch. But still, it's an idea that I can't stop thinking about and I wonder if there's really something to it. I guess with this point I'm actually most interested in your thoughts on this. So let me know down in the comments. You're already living your life. Yeah, of course I am. Yes, but think about it. Are you really living your life? No, because I don't like my job and it's restricting my ability to live life. Alright, I get that. And to be honest, I'm struggling with this as well. I personally didn't enjoy the job I had for the last few years. Not because the job itself was bad, but because of where I practiced it. Either way, I was not happy and therefore I imagined my life getting better as soon as I'd leave that company. And sure, a decision like that can definitely make life better. But does that mean that the years that I've already spent in that company were wasted? What about the long drives home after work, listening to my favorite music and seeing the sun setting? I felt joy in these moments, but they quickly faded again as soon as I arrived at work the next day. So, the happy moments arrive here and there, and life itself is miserable. But that's horrible. Life shouldn't be that way. I'd argue that life should be satisfying and peaceful, filled with moments that suck. So, going to that workplace you don't like sucks. But that's just one part of your day, and that part is not cool. But what about the rest of the day? Eating, cooking something, working on something you love in the evening, or spending time with your loved ones. That's where your mental focus should be. Because are we really going to let something like work change how we appreciate life itself? Let me be honest here. Theoretically, what I just said makes sense. But I'd feel guilty if I didn't tell you this second part. People in my life told me exactly what I said before. Lots of times, and I hated it. Sometimes life just really doesn't feel great, and a quick drive home with nice music doesn't fix that. It doesn't make you automatically happy. I struggle with this idea of trying to be happy no matter what a lot. It's been literal years since I first heard this, and even now I don't fully agree with what I told you. But in theory, I still believe life should work like that. But it's just so hard to actually adapt to that mindset. Which is funny because our mind is so good at adapting. Well, we can adapt to things we have to or want to quite quickly, but this mindset is none of that. Focusing on the negative aspects of life is something we humans are just great at. You can see that even when looking at the news. When was the last time anything positive was shown there? I can't remember, to be honest. And that's okay, I guess. I can't change the news, but I can change myself and how I think about my life. And that's why I still try to adapt myself to this mindset. I'm already living my life. I want to look back on this part of my life and smile and not be miserable. So yeah, that job sucks, but the rest doesn't have to. And who knows, maybe if I accept that the rest is not that bad, the job starts to work out as well, maybe? It has already begun. Something I've realized over the last few years and relived while creating this video was that looking at life like something that can start or end is wrong. At least for me. When did life begin? When you were born? When you entered kindergarten? Or was it when school began? I'd argue that there's no beginning at all. We all know that we were born and that this all started somewhere, but we can't pinpoint our first memory. At least I can't. So why should we be able to say when life begins? Well, you can't. Life has already begun. It's happening right now. In a few years I will rewatch this video and remember myself scripting this and creating this video. And I will know that I lived and that I enjoyed this. Even though the process of creating a video can be fun, it's not always the case. Just like everything in life. It can still be satisfying and you can still be happy about it. I'd even argue that that's what makes life so special and beautiful. At the same time, it makes it so very scary. And this is an anxiety-inducing realization I had when making this video. Life has no end and no beginning. It just exists as long as we do. Do you feel like you're actually living your life? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you very much for watching and I hope this video was helpful or at least entertaining. Have a wonderful day.